Hello, this is Jenny-Jaymes Gunn. I am a community advocate here in Charlotte, North Carolina for LGBT women's rights with the National Organization for Women, gun sense laws with Moms and Men Action, and anything that extends equity to all. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. This is Barb Bacon. I'm a community advocate here in South Charlotte. Generally, I drive people around and to doctor's appointments, and I'm getting ready to have my sign-up list for taking people to vote. And today I drove a friend to Duke, so name it. I probably will try to help do it. So my buttons, once again, are I believe in healthcare for all. I've got some people that don't believe in Medicare for all. Gun violence, let's get some control of guns. And Black Lives Matter in honor of our friend Joel that passed away last year. So that's it, guys.
Hey, I'm Christian Cano. You're the co-host. My buttons are Moms and Men Action, gun sense legislation, healthcare for all, Medicare for all, and also in my heart, Black Lives Matter on behalf of Joe Oldham, who's a guest of ours who passed away last year. That's it. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for watching our Coffee Pan Dulce Show every week. Don't forget, you can watch us visually on our video podcast platforms on Facebook and YouTube. But you can also listen to us on your favorite audio podcast platforms like Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and all of the other ones that all your favorite, whatever your favorite is. Once again, thank you for watching us on Coffee Pan Dulce. We'll dance out.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear music?
I hear it now. Yeah, good.
Yeah,
good selection.
That's because my music works. But anyway, good morning, everybody. This is Coffee Pan Dulce. Definitely not the Sahana music rating system, but anyway, I'm Jenny-Jaymes Gunn along with my show partner and producer Christian Cano. How are you doing, Christian?
Good, Jenny. How are you? Good to see you. I haven't seen you in person in almost a week. Wow.
Longer. I mean, other than the show.
That's right. Yeah. I think we went to. What was it last Wednesday? Anyway, everything gets so. We're down to like the wire with elections and stuff, and so everything just seems to be coming together. Plus, it's your favorite month.
Yeah. Of course, I love October. It is the second Wednesday in October, which I usually say at the beginning, but it's
yes.
We're already 2 Wednesdays in, and we dodged a hurricane, and I haven't seen you since the hurricane.
What's happened since then?
Because
wow.
We went to that local political thing a few days before that, and then you guys went.
Yeah, we went up to our
camping.
Undisclosed location
right after the hurricane. The day after, and of course, by the time we got here, it wasn't a hurricane anymore. But
that's right. It was like,
it was.
Did it rain?
The artist formerly known as Hurricane Ian blew through here with a little bit of rain, a little bit of wind, and not much else. Of course, we're a couple hundred miles from the coast, so it does make a difference. But anyway, it's probably been. By the time this airs, it would have been 2 weeks I've seen you in person.
Ah, that's right. Wow, that's a long time for us.
Half a month.
Well, that's right. Exactly. Well, we'll have to get together here before something here. All right. Well, everyone, welcome to Coffee Pan Dulce. I'm Christian Cano, one of your co-hosts, along with Jenny Gunn, Barb Bacon. And Barb, I think, is still in Chi-Town. I know her. She was there for the Chicago Marathon and also to visit family. I can't wait to hear her experience. I think it's probably a little bit cooler there. Have you heard from her? I've gotten some text messages, but
a little bit. Of course, obviously, they're probably vacationing and
and
enjoying their time away and getting to see people I think the only time they get to see a lot of these people's during marathon week, so they make that annual trek over to Chicago, and so Of course, we always want them to have safe travels and enjoy themselves.
Exactly. Yep.
And have great weather, so that art can run like the wind, which is just anytime I think about somebody running a marathon and running 20 plus miles, it's incredible. It's just incredible.
Tired.
I mean, I've never ever even come close to that kind of a distance. Maybe over a month. Mile a day for 30 days.
That's right.
Not one steady.
Exactly. Well, speaking of wind, I know this isn't one of our topics, but do you have any comments on Marjorie Taylor Greene's, you know what I'm talking about? She said that she didn't understand how Biden could support clean energy because what happens when the wind stops blowing?
I guess for a couple of things.
That's not one of our topics, but I couldn't. I just read that today. I know Barb mentioned something about it, but
we could. If the wind dies down, I'm sure between Bobert and her, we could just hook up a fan up to their balls, and it never ceases to stop blowing. It's just one of those bizarre things. They obviously, when they put these windmills in places, they put them in places that have an average wind speed of 14, 15, 16 miles per hour, like the panhandle of Texas, which the average wind speed like 14.8 miles per hour. So typically speaking, the wind is blowing enough consistently to send energy. And the second thing is it's not the only source of energy.
Exactly. But it's
for some odd reason, there's a dip for a day or two. There's other sources.
There's solar, there's hydro, and I know she's used that line several times because Barbara had mentioned it to us, and apparently she used it this weekend at some event, and of course part of her line or her shtick is well, what do we expect? Biden to blow hot air at it? I mean, it's like that is such a I don't know. Anyway, when you just represent a group of people that have no real meaningful policies and original thoughts other than moral outrage or immoral outrage. Sure.
I mean, what do you expect? They have no knowledge of science.
Well, it's just. I mean, you want to think. I mean, there's someone on her staff that's going, "Oh, this is a really funny line. Keep using it." So anyway, I don't want to spend all. I know you talk about her on your show a lot, but I just thought I'd throw that out. Anyway, we do have 3 current events. We don't introduce ourselves anymore because that happens the first of the show on our video, and we do want to salute to our neighbors. Whatever you're drinking this morning, salute Jenny, and we also want to thank our Pan Dulce sponsor and this way, Manolo's Bakery on Central Avenue. This is some conchas. We're still in Hispanic Heritage Month. We have a couple left until the 15th. And we do want to thank Manolo's Bakery on Central Avenue here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Please visit your Black and brown small businesses. Always try to buy local. All right, let's go directly into the top 3 events. I don't think I told you about these, Jen, but let's just try to do these.
I think we started laughing too much about the first one you read off, and then we just went off the rails. And then realized we were going to be the only 2 on the show.
We'll
then we realized we can start anytime we want. We record this a couple nights before this airs,
and we can edit.
And so,
hey, speaking of that, happy Indigenous Persons Day. Which is kind of about our topic. So we actually tape this on a Monday night, and it's just technically Indigenous Persons Day, and you'll find out why I'm saying that. Well, not only just to say that, but also, I'm sure we have some things to talk about. Is the first topic. The GOP, a big article in the USA Today, is the GOP big tent shrinking. Traditional conservatives are finding themselves without a home. And there's a wonderful article. It's a 3-part series. And if you have not read that, please read that article. The second current event is Donald Trump this last weekend said that Governor GOP Senator Ben Sasse, who resigned to take over, I think, the chancellor or presidents of Florida, University of Florida, Florida State, one of those colleges. He said he was a fake rhino. So he said I don't know, is that a double negative? He's saying he's a fake rhino, which means he's a real Republican. I mean, that's what he called him. So
Right.
the last one, we'll stick on the orange idiot. The last one is there's a book that's out from one of the persons who worked in the press office or something for Trump, and said that Trump hated signing killed in action letters that could link him to a war he oversaw, a book says. The actual reporter was quoting people on his staff that said he hated anytime they approached him with letters to sign, condolence letters as they send to the family members who died in the war in Afghanistan. He hated it because he didn't want to be connected to it. So you want to comment on any of those on 30 seconds or less?
I guess I'll start with the stupidest one first, which is the killed in action deals. I mean, he wasn't real keen on being president. I mean, so anything to do with the real job, he didn't really want to do. I mean, so I'm not shocked. We all know his disdain for McCain and veterans. So, I mean, there's nothing shocking about that. I mean, as far as the fake rhinos, the dude's just dumb. He's just dumb. I mean, my gosh. I mean, every time his mouth opens, you just realize that there's like press secretaries and former press secretaries. Oh, gosh, like it makes George W. Bush look like a rocket doctor. I mean, we used to make fun of George W. Bush being dumb, and saying funny things and reversing his words and stuff like that. But George W. looks like an elder statesman now. Like
he does now. Yeah.
I never thought we'd ever get to this point. I figured it would happen after George W. Bush passes away. We'll wax poetry about his life and how he oversaw the country during 9/11 and Trina and all that kind of stuff, and we'll try to remember him better than he really was. Yeah. But Trump ensconced him into being the elder Republican statesman still alive. And then the other one was what was the third one?
The big tent shrinking.
I mean, there's been a ton of shrinkage stories talked about in the Republican Party. There's a lot of good stories about, and especially in the last few years since Trump left the office, about how the Republican Party started shifting in the early to mid 2000s and became pretty much a whites-only, white supremacist party. And demographics are startling. And in that early years of Obama was really telling on how fast they shifted to a very, very undiverse 90 plus percentile party of just white people, angry white people. And there's only a certain amount of those, and the fact that just that kind of appeal has got a limited appeal. It's for anybody other than angry white conservative people. There's no real room for you in that party. And it's going to come a time where even the most staunch Republicans, and I'm talking about legit Republicans, McCain Republicans, are going to look back and go, I mean, we became Democrats, or we just stopped voting, or we got disenfranchised. And I think the day's coming pretty fast.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, you and I are here in North Carolina, and the unaffiliated voter now is the largest voting bloc here in North Carolina. So, and
it's not coming from the Democrats.
Exactly. It's they're leading the Republican Party. Yeah.
Is you see in Arizona that immediately after January 6th, how many people changed their affiliation from Republican to either independent or Democrat. And we saw the massive Biden landslide victory in 2020 of over 8 million votes. There is no doubt that the tides are turning. Whether we see it go backwards here in about 4 weeks, we don't know. But I'm really thinking people are just seeing the Republican Party the way it is now, and just going, I don't recognize that. That's not even the party of Reagan anymore.
Yeah, it's
It doesn't
I mean,
resemble the Republican Party of my childhood. And
it definitely
the party was pretty sleazy when we were kids.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But you look at it now and you just go, at least Nixon and Reagan and Papa Bush had some sort of grace, had staffs that actually understood what the world was going on, and managed, even though they had problematic philosophies and were evil bastards, at least they had some kind of baseline of decency.
And don't you think?
And the Republican Party right now is just.
No, that's an excellent point, Jen. And I mean, you've answered all three of them exactly the way I would answer them as well. But I just want to add with the GW Bush. I actually saw last week the documentary on Netflix about Nolan Ryan, and in the documentary on Netflix, they actually interview G.W. Bush, George, our former president, G.W., and he sat down, and there was a little bit of his old kind of smugness that was in the interview, and that reminded me, that's the guy I used to not like.
Well, and so, when he was young and fresh off the cocaine trail, he was a different kind of guy.
Yeah.
And I think after 9/11, and I think especially in the later years of his presidency, like 2007, 2008, when our country was unwinding and, banks were struggling and mortgage companies were going out of business left and right. And all of our car manufacturing was literally just evaporating. There was plant closings by the day. Like, it just seemed like, oh my God, this plant closed over here and this part supplier closed over here. And we literally were watching our economic fabric unwind. I think it aged him a lot. I think it changed George W. Bush for the better. A little late, but I think he realized what he'd done.
And that's, don't you think? Hey, Jen, don't you think that's? I mean, that was what you said is exactly correct. And we have it has just blown our mind, because in 2016 when Trump won, there were some of us, and I said this as well. I wanted to think at least there will be people around him that will, there was this hope that at least he would hire, and it was like just a train wreck right after, back to back. And it was like, this guy is not even, even the people he hired, he was firing everyone, and
I mean,
yeah, exactly.
I think a lot of them left too. Like the famous Rex Tillerson, I don't know, did he stay on the job 8 weeks, 9 weeks? It wasn't even very long. I think he was one of the first to quit.
That's right.
And the famous, what he said, which was, Trump's not just an idiot, he's a fucking idiot, and Tillerson was one of those few people on his cabinet that were actually had any kind of leadership or gravitas.
Yeah, he was like from Mobil Oil or something, wasn't he?
Exxon. Well, he was a former CEO of Exxon.
It was like, that's crazy.
And had international negotiating experience, and just was considered probably the plum of his crop as far as the people that he appointed. Versus like Bannon and DeVos. Of course, obviously, we knew they bought their way in and are just absolute friggin' idiots. But Tillerson was kind of that feather in his cap.
It's almost like when he went, you knew, this is, and then it started to snowball.
I think most people knew that Tillerson was right before even Tillerson said it. That when you saw him campaign the year before, you knew he was a fucking idiot. You knew he was a horrible person. He never left any gray area. I mean, even though the Republicans in the primary in 2016 were saying, this guy's awful, and of course they kowtowed and capitulated to him because he just, railroaded them. But he,
well, that's we're gonna take our first break. Yeah, go ahead, Jen.
No, that was it.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, and that's kind of what I kind of dedicated my own personal to do between now and the election, is just to remind people of, do you want this chaos again? Or do you want, if you want to find a job today, I'm willing to pay just a little bit more for a McDouble, so that way people can get paid a decent salary. So, when people are complaining about inflation, yes, no one likes paying more for something, but we have to understand that we do have more people are working. We just are recovering from a global pandemic where we put adults in charge, and many of us were able to at least hug each other again. Imagine what it would be like if we went back to craziness. So I'm hoping we can remind people, because everyone has such short-term memory. Do you want the MTGs? Speaking of MTG, we're going to take our first break, but we are our silent hosts that are with us every week. MTG's lover, Bernie Sanders, is up there since she's going through a divorce. I just want to let her know that someone's here for her. He's out there, and of course, DACA Baby Trump Pinata is here as well. So we do want to thank both of them. They're going to be leaving us after this first break, so just Jenny and I can hold the conversation. We're going to take our first break and then start talking about our topic today, Columbus the villain. We talk about this every year, and be interesting to see if we have anything different to say. So we will be right back on Coffee Pan Dulce right after this. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching our Coffee Pan Dulce show every week. Don't forget you can watch us visually on our video podcast platforms on Facebook and YouTube, but you can also listen to us on your favorite audio podcast platforms like Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and all of the other ones that your favorite, whatever your favorite is. Once again, thank you for watching us on Coffee Pan Dulce. We'll dance out. All right, well, welcome back. And as I mentioned, Jenny, I'm going to let you start so I can get rid of them technology-wise. So let's talk about Columbus the villain. We talk about this every year for the last several years, I think since we started. Anything different that you want to add, to what we've been talking about forever?
Well, I mean, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit on the Two Queers show, but I mean, one of the, we canonized Christopher Columbus for so long, mainly because the conservatives in our country want to justify all the insane stuff we've done, here in the America, first we were the colonies and then the United States, but we just did what he did. We don't have a better track record on human rights, including the last 100 years. I mean, since World War II, what we've done and run roughshod around the world, I don't think we learned any lessons about, post-slavery and committing genocide on all the indigenous nations that were here on North and South America. I just see us doing it in a different way, but I see what we did in the early 2000s to Iraq and Afghan citizens, that we killed over 1 million people of color, just because we used drones and smart weapons and space lasers or whatever we used on these poor people. Don't stand a chance against the world's most powerful and efficient military for absolutely no reason other than corporate greed. What's the difference? I mean,
so Jen, what are your thoughts about the movement? Sorry to interrupt you, but what are your thoughts about the movement to change Columbus Day, which is a federal holiday, to change it to Indigenous People Day? Because that's been a movement for about 10 years, I think, or maybe less than that.
Support that. I'm going to say that we wiped out over 100 million indigenous people and stole all their land, giving them 1 day of recognition per year. I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really wash the blood off our hands. But absolutely, we shouldn't celebrate Christopher Columbus. He was a friggin' moron. He was lost at sea and runs into the Caribbean islands and thinks he's near India. I mean, and he's got none, and then he just brought in a legacy of death and destruction and greed.
But that's one of the things. That's
there's
one of
nothing
the things
heroic
that
what he did.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I don't understand about this this cancel culture rhetoric, woke rhetoric, all the banning book rhetoric from these same people that have been trying to do all of this and want to take over the school boards. They don't want anyone to know that Christopher Columbus didn't discover America. That was discovered, like, I think their scientists are now saying, in the north by the Scandinavians.
You can't discover what was already. There was already people here.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. How can you discover?
Exactly.
That's right. That's like saying,
I don't care what other invaders came before him.
Mm-hmm.
There was nations here going back 10,000 years with the Clovis men.
Mm-hmm.
In the Lubbock Lake dig site in West Texas. There were civilizations here 5, 10, 15,000 years ago. He didn't discover shit. Nobody discovered anything. They just happened to stumble onto these continents, and realize, there's people here, let's kill them.
No, what you're saying is exactly correct. And that is what they're trying to stop. They're trying to stop anyone from changing a textbook, a history book. If it currently says discover America, you're right. I mean, I think if academia and stuff said he never discovered it, he invaded it. They want to prevent changing that from discover America to, I would not disagree with invading America. So, but that's what they want to do. Their rhetoric is.
It would be like, let's say the roles were reversed and China had the best and most powerful military right now, and they moseyed on over to South America and just invade Peru and Argentina and all that.
That's
they discovered South America. Well, you didn't discover anything. You invaded it. You had a more powerful military. Yeah. We didn't discover Afghanistan and discover Iraq. Mm-hmm. We friggin' invaded them. And that's all there is.
That's like saying Putin. No, that's a good point. That's like saying Putin discovered the Ukraine.
Yeah, absolutely. or he's annexing,
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm like, no, you're not annexing it, bitch. You freaking invaded it and killing people right and doing all kinds of inhumane things, you jackass. And the Ukrainian people are saying, no, we don't want to do this. We know that you're an evil bastard, and we don't want any part of it. And just like the Aztecs and everybody that fought tooth and nail against the Spanish military and the British military and the American military and all that over the hundreds of years of wars against the indigenous people, this was their lands. We live on stolen land.
So, but here's the thing that it still baffles my mind. I wish we had the ladies that were on almost this time last year from Sarasota about save public schools and so forth, because they're still fighting that right now where they are. And the school board that they were in has now been taken over by MAGA Republicans who want to, change the curriculum and all this kind of stuff. And so, because I don't personally know anyone who is against learning. Before COVID, I know you were very involved in a lot of groups, not just progressive groups, but just a lot of groups, a wide range of groups. And I'm not sure, do you know anyone who is, you don't name them, but do you know anyone who is against education? You know what I mean? I mean, who would be against?
MAGA. QAnon, MAGAs.
Yeah.
Most.
See, I don't actually know anyone. So I would love to sit down and talk with someone and say, what is your mindset behind,
I mean, it's very clear though. I mean, okay. Let's use the Catholic Church that has a lot of blood on their hand in the invasion of the Americas. The majority of this was directed by the Catholic Pope. This was something to build up the Holy Roman Catholic Empire. And, when they say God, gold, and glory, the big 3 G's, that was a big motto and just an agenda. And it was, Christianity, it's always been self-serving. It's always been a tool of weaponization against people doing really irrational things because it's just based on belief.
Sure.
And they said, we're going to go over and help bring Jesus to the savages. And, it was all these selling points.
Yeah.
Not really that much different what we're seeing from the MAGA QAnon, cult now, which is, we're going to stop the homosexuals and the and the groomers and God forbid somebody reads some kids some stories and just it doesn't sound really that much different. You may remove the these and thous and the flowery language, but it's the same type of mouth breather, idiotic, unscientific mentality of those people are savages. Those people are worth less than dirt.
Sure.
If we can't convert them, we kill them.
Sure. Yeah.
And it doesn't sound any different now.
That's a good point, Jen. Yeah.
It's just that we have the technology to point this out and have the ability to tell people. We have the at least for now, the constitutional right of freedom of speech.
But that's an excellent point, Jenny, and I've never heard it phrased that way. And I guess the question, and I wish we had time. We don't have time between now and the election to do the show, but I wish we could talk about, and as a country, and some candidates would actually ask MAGA Republicans, what do you think is going to happen to the 70% of the people that you don't like? Well, I mean, what do you think just by you saying you don't like gays, you don't like drag queens, you don't like whatever, black and brown people, you don't like immigrants, do you think by saying that they're just going to leave? I mean, is that what they actually think?
They don't have to.
I mean, I'm curious to hear, what does MTG actually think by saying she wants to have a Christian nationalist country? What does she think is going to happen to those of us who don't believe
We've had it before.
Okay.
I mean, Christianity and fascism go hand in hand.
Sure. No, I understand what you're saying, but what do you think they think is going to, but what do you think they think is going to happen? I mean, it's hard to be in the mind of a delusional person.
That will fold like the Germans and Italians in 1936. Which happened before. It's not outrageous for it to happen again.
Sure.
It's dependent on us, not the Republic.
So do you?
I think that's where you miss this is that we always have two choices when you're facing an evil like you are with the MAGAs or the Nazis. You're either going to go, oh, they're not so bad, and we're going to duck and cover and make the best of it. And we'll just let the tanks and the drones roll through, and you and I can go to death camps. Or we fight back. We fight back with information and logic and appeal to the better angels of the 70% of us. But we can still lose. That's the whole thing. The intentionality of what they're saying, they know that a small group of people can control the majority. It happened in Germany. It happened in Italy. It has happened in large nations before.
Sure.
So a small group of fanatical religious nuts have weaponized language. We just saw it in 2016.
So here's
the minority party.
Hey, listen, if you don't mind, Jenny, and I'm sorry to go completely off topic, but I'd like to talk about this a little bit more. Let's take our second break, and I kind of want to talk about this because that's very interesting what you have to say. Because in my mind, I know you have warned us a lot about, hey, don't get too complacent. This is exactly what happened in history when people thought, that can never happen. Then it happens, and especially with Trump.
Time too.
Yeah. So we're going to take our second break, and we'll be right back on Coffee and Pan Dulce to keep talking about this topic that Jenny has raised my interest in. Now we'll be right back on Coffee and Pan Dulce. Howdy, everyone. I'm Christian Cano with the Coffee and Pan Dulce Show, based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. I just want to remind everyone that we have less than 22 days, I think, 22 days to vote on November the 8th. And I just want to urge everyone to get out there and vote. If you're not registered to vote, you can actually register, I believe, day of in North Carolina during early voting. But also, please remember to grab your neighbor, grab a tia, a tío, a mija, a mijo, grab someone who's eligible to vote and registered to vote, and take them out to vote. This election is so important, as every election is. But remember, you only have about 22 days left, so there's a link that's going to be on the bottom here. Follow that link if you need more information about getting out to vote. And once again, please get out to vote like your family's future depends on it, because our families do. Thank you. Get out to vote. Well, welcome back. So, Jenny, the reason this is so interesting to me, and I know you correct me a lot whenever I am misinformed on things. But it just seems like to me, the MAGAs are so unrealistic because they think we're not going to fight back. Or do you think they think we're going to fight back and they're going to win? Is that, I mean, I'm curious because.
Well, I mean,
I just like when I hear Marjorie Taylor Greene say something so stupid, I think, does she not think black and brown people are going to fight back? We're not going to go down easy. I mean, if we get to the point where they're actually saying, we've won the presidency again, we've won the House and the Senate, there will be people, and they attempt to marginalize people. There will be people. They think the Proud Girls were dangerous. Imagine the young black and brown people who are going to come out in the streets and protest. Maybe. Okay. All right. Well, I'm curious to what you have to say. Yeah.
I mean, it hasn't always happened. I mean, you look how long the British Empire controlled India, and how many more Indian nationals were there versus the British occupation army, and up until about Gandhi, and Gandhi said, "Well, there's a lot more of us than them. Let's just stop working. Let's go on hunger strikes. We realize we can outnumber them and we can outlast them." And that's when the British Empire realized, oh, this is a problem. And NASA, we got a problem. And if we're gonna stop tyranny, that's how you have to do it. You can't and here's the thing. Okay. No matter what anybody says, these type of people cannot be reasoned with.
Okay.
And if we don't stop fighting, whether voting, encouraging people to register to vote, keep pushing, voter protection laws, encouraging ways of registering people to vote till we get to 100% registration, start protecting the voting rights of the people that have been formerly incarcerated.
Yep.
Start changing fundamental laws that have been passed since 2021 in Republican-held states. It doesn't matter how many more of us there are.
Yeah.
If they get nestled in like a tick, like they always do, no matter which historic reference you want to use, whether it was India, whether it was China, no matter where the minority of conservatives that were well-armed and well-informed use enough intimidation tricks and just enough scare tactics like they're using exactly right now. They get people so worked up, so scared. And some of it almost sounds like the truth. And they get hating certain people. And here's a very important point, and then I'll switch back to you. Okay. But Hitler, one of the best tactics that he used was he got people scared of the Jews. Scared of the gays. We need breathing room. We need this. This is our divine right. They're dirty. They're filthy. They're money grabbing. They're taking your money. They're taking your things. Does that sound familiar? As irrational as that sounds, and as emotional as that sounds, he was a very emotional orator. Hitler was. Flailing his arms around and screaming. Sounded just like Lindsey Graham. But these extreme
probably was like Lindsey Graham.
Probably more in one way.
Exactly.
From historical reports, he had a really close best friend. And I'm sure they played the touching each other's toes for a little while. But anyway, the reality is we were asleep at the wheel in 2016, and we allowed this psychotic idiot who was completely unqualified to hold any kind of office, nonetheless being the president of the United States. But the moron still won. And he did it just like every other fascist, tyrant, dictator in history has ever done. And appealed to the dumbest people, which are the religious, that will fall for anything, and whipped people up into a frenzy and said that we're the immoral ones.
Well, I mean, I know in many ways I'm sheltered kind of from certain things, And I just like for me, when I hear all the rhetoric that MTG says or that Trump says or some of the MAGA people say, it doesn't scare me. I'm not afraid of them. I look at it as just,
I find it interesting that you said you sheltered from it.
Okay.
But yet, we've had this conversation a million times on the show and off here too.
Yeah.
But you moved here many moons ago. This is the place where you've been treated the worst in many ways, as far as
that's true.
Being seen as
that's true.
Hispanic or an outsider.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
Yeah.
And I'm wondering why you adopt.
Sure.
I mean, I know why you do it, but I'm wondering why you decide to tuck tail and run from that confrontation.
I think
you're treated as an other here.
Sure.
Worse than any other place you've lived.
Yeah, that's true. I think just for me, it has been just for me personally, it has been a lot less. It's been easier to just deal with the cards that have been dealt wherever I'm at. And yeah, you're right. I mean, here in where we currently live has been a little bit more challenging, but there's also some really good things as well that come along with it. When I say that I feel like I'm sheltered, I mean that, and I don't mean me personally sheltered. I mean that when I see the rhetoric from the MAGA people, it doesn't like. I'm not afraid of Marjorie Taylor. I'm not afraid of the Proud Boys. I'm not afraid of Trump. I'm not afraid of them because I know that if push came to shove, from what I have grown up, I wasn't born in the hood, but I wasn't born in privileged area. I know that there are a lot of people who, I don't know how to word this right without coming across as real, they're not hard people to smack down. When push comes to shove, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and people like Trump, if you're actually face to face with these individuals, they will always back down. They're more talk. They're not like the people I'm afraid of are some of the more of the moderate individuals that kind of allow it to happen. But the real loud, the loud MAGAs, the Ted Cruz's, all those people I'm not afraid of.
But Christian,
sure.
There were many times where you take more of a moderate stance. There was many times where you kowtow to some of your friends and associates you hang out with, where you don't look at them as the enemy for some odd reason. You go along to get along.
Sure.
And they don't look at you the same way. They just look at you as an obstacle.
Sure.
And for people of color since 2016, that rhetoric that you may not be afraid of has increased violence sometimes 80, 90%. You look at the Asian American, you look at the Latinx community, you look at all the violence that we've faced. George Floyd, I completely and 1,000% disagree with you. And I think the problem is rhetoric like yours, where you go, I'm not afraid of it, and it's not that big of a deal. My problem is when I hear that, I hear, oh, he's ducking and running again, because that's literally what you're doing. The rhetoric of MTV, we can laugh it off, but that same shit was said in 1936 Germany. The exact same, the outrageous stuff.
So what would your suggestion be to those like me who you think are not taking it seriously, that aren't afraid? What would your suggestion be for us to make you feel more comfortable? And not just you, I mean, people in general, that I'm not, and I'm not trying to say I don't understand.
Stop the rhetoric that it's not so bad.
Okay. Well, I'm not saying it's not so bad.
I'm just, but you did.
Well, no, yeah.
And so I'm calling you out on the mat because you've done this many times during the years on the show. And what I'm saying is pacification to these jackasses is what happened in 2016. And then we had 4 years of terror and unnecessary death due to COVID, tremendous amount of violence in this country. And when the easiest way for radical extremists like this to win and get foothold. And people say, well, maybe it is both sides.
Sure.
It's to say, oh, that's not so bad.
Sure.
And that's exactly what you just said. And what I'm saying is, before you say that, maybe you should recheck what your sensibilities are. And you're not the only one saying this kind of stuff, but I hear this from a lot of people.
So what would you suggest that we do? I mean, from your lens,
like hell. You better vote fucking like hell. You better just realize that they just took away abortion with the Dobbs decision. You better realize that 20 states have voted to take away transgender medical rights. Psychologists in this last year. That they're banning fucking books. Books. We just saw the first insurrection against the peaceful transfer of power ever in our 240-year history. You better be fucking scared. You better have a lightning rod up your ass. And if you're not, you're a fucking idiot. Their rhetoric is dangerous because it conditions us to duck and cover and say, oh, they're so silly. They're so silly. What could worse could happen? Well, maybe another insurrection, except this one will be successful. Maybe they won't have to because they voted out enough voting rights to where they can just change the fucking ballots or throw out ballots like they can in certain states now. But they literally can just go, oh, that doesn't match. Throw that in the trash. That's you better be fucking scared because the rhetoric, yes, some of it's clownish. We can make fun of it all we want. But at the same time, they mean it. They mean stop the steal. We're literally going to keep trying to stop the steal. We're going to literally set the laws to where if we don't like the way the ballots went, we can just throw them out for whatever reason. And this has been happening a long time. They've been deleting masses of voter registrations. It happened in Georgia in 2018. It happened in Texas in 2018. There was over 150,000 people lost their right to vote right before the election in 2018 when Beto was running for Senate. 150,000 people got deleted off the voting rolls.
Hey, Jen, I want to
they're predominantly Democrats.
If you don't mind, can we spend the last 15 minutes on this same topic? This is a very interesting topic. I think this is a very important topic, and it is very on our topic today, because I guess the question would be, well, how could Columbus take over indigenous people unless they allowed him to take over? How could the people in Germany, because I agree with you. There is this, well, and that's a good point. So I guess, obviously we don't learn from history because it keeps happening. So what do you think we can do today, besides keep voting? People who say, like what I said, what do you think we can do? Because I don't know that many people that, other than like really progressives on this end and then MAGA Republicans on this end, the large percentage of people, and probably a lot of our viewers that watch as well, are not as up in arms. You know what I mean? So what do you think? What do you think those of us?
Either. I think again. I think. Don't take offense to this, but I think a lot of people are paying attention, including yourself.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of people paying attention in Kansas this summer.
Yeah.
A lot of people were paying attention in Alaska when an upstart Democrat beat a very famous former governor. And
hey, you know what? Let me rephrase this question, because you're exactly right. And let me rephrase this question
real quick, then we can come back if you want.
Exactly. We're going to take our last break. And our last break, if you like what you're hearing now, Jenny has a show that she leads. It's called Two Queers in a Truck, and she really lets her hair down on that one. And that will come on about 30 minutes after this. So we'll be right back for the commercial for Two Queers in a Truck.
Up next is Two Queers in a Truck with Jenny and Christian. And hope you guys tune in. We'll see you in about 15 to 20 minutes. Thank you.
All right. Excellent. Welcome back. I think the question I was trying to say, and you know me, it takes like 3 or 4 times for me to get the question out right.
And that's if you let the other person answer.
That's a good one. I like that.
I was on that like a fat kid. I'm like, okay.
You've been holding that one all day long, haven't you?
I've been waiting for 2 weeks to drop that one.
That's right.
I won't even say why I said that. But anyway.
Okay. Well, now this question has a little bit to do with that, what you just said. I'm not hearing from commercials here where I live in North Carolina, from candidates that are running against MAGA Republicans. I'm not hearing what you're saying, like, hey, listen, we need to be alarmed. We need to, you know what I mean? I'm not hearing that. And so do you think that might be a mistake, or because I'm not hearing a Democratic candidate or someone who's running against a MAGA Republican saying, listen, this is not something to laugh about. We need to be afraid of these crazy people. You know what I mean? I'm not hearing that. I'm hearing, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I approve this message. I knock on doors, and I do this, and I do. Well, I'm hearing just really kumbaya.
I also think,
okay.
Again, I think you must be watching something different than me.
But I mean, if you are,
and I also think it depends on the market. So
sure,
let's use the Fetterman Oz campaign, for example.
Okay.
What's going on right now? It's a very hotly contested campaign. You have Dr. Oz that has a massive amount of access to money. It's very much a David and Goliath battle as far as money is concerned, not on size. Fetterman's much bigger than Oz, but you look at that type of battle, Fetterman's pulling no punches. The fucking memes alone coming from his campaign are insanely funny, but they're also pointing out the hypocrisy and the danger of a guy like Dr. Oz. They could draw comparisons to a Dr. Mengele with the Nazis that was in the root core cabinet of Hitler's regime that is willing to kill animals. It's willing to make profits off people's misery with false promises of deal. He's literally saying everything about Dr. Oz is a lie. And then we can flash forward to the Walker Warnock campaign in Georgia.
Okay.
Reverend Warnock's not pulling any punches. You know, he's literally, he didn't have to say too much. All he's got to do is play, Herschel Walker's son.
It's like everyone dreams to run against a Herschel Walker.
but no, I think there's tons of Democrats that are fighting a fight. I think everyone is going to fight depending on how hotly contested they are. Now, if you are in the lead or you're in a deal. But I also look at Sherry Beasley's campaign. For one, I think she's fighting a very hard fight against a very well-funded Republican.
Okay.
I think for her to be even competitive in this, when no other Democrat's been competitive in a North Carolina Senate race, and how long? When's the last time North Carolina's even had a U.S. senator that was a Democrat?
Since Kagan. Yeah.
You know, and so the fact is they're in a dead heat, and they're pumping tens of millions of dollars into Ted Budd's campaign, and Sherry Beasley is going right at why you shouldn't trust this guy, that he's a thief, that he's a MAGA, that he supports insurrection, he's anti-abortion, he's anti-this. She's very clearly stating what he isn't and what she is. A former Supreme Court justice. She's this. She's accomplished. She's brilliant. And I think she's selling her brand, but she's not letting him off the hook on abortion. She's going right at the root of this election, which is body autonomy, voters' rights.
But I guess what I'm saying, Jenny, is that these are people that are running for office.
Right.
Me and your average citizen, we're not running for office. No. So why should people expect more from us than those from running for office? If they're not saying what is it, y'all as in people who want us to be kind of concerned about this, which I am concerned. But my point is, the people that are running for office, if they're not raising the alarm, your average individual is not going to raise the alarm. So my point,
I've watched just enough Sherry Beasley campaign commercials. There's nothing Pollyanna about them. You may go rewatch some of them because I mean, honestly, I think and I think this is a tendency with some Democrats,
Yeah.
is that they're not going to exactly scream like MAGAs are,
Sure.
but they're yelling.
Okay.
The Ohio debate that happened on Monday night or tonight, of course we dropped the show on Wednesday, but literally what, Tim Ryan just said about JD Vance on stage was just brutal. I mean, he pulled no punches, to say the least. It's going to be in the news cycle for a little while. And even when this airs, it's going to get a lot of play on Twitter on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I think Democrats, you look at Dark Brandon, aka Joe Biden. I think some of the things that he's been doing since about the middle of the summer.
What did you call him? What was his?
They call him Dark Brandon.
Oh, why?
Twitter, because he's the opposite of Brandon. Because Brandon go or whatever the saying.
Yeah. That's funny. Okay.
Saying "fuck you" to Joe Biden. Well, they reversed it and took it back and said, "Well, Joe Biden, Dark Brandon." Basically, Star Wars.
Yeah, that's kind of witty. I like that. That sounds like something young people do.
I don't know how you missed that. I've been staying there for 3 months. But anyway,
I'm not in the know.
We look at Governor Newsom's very aggressive campaigning for other Democrats. We look at the messaging that's coming from Joe Biden and the literally calling them fascists, being insanely aggressive. The clip from Florida from the other day when he was inspecting the deal and he was casually talking to one of the 4 Indians and he said, nobody fucks with Joe Biden. And so you're seeing a stance that I believe is matching the Republican energy in our way, but I don't see anybody pulling punches. I really don't. I disagree with you. That doesn't mean, but here's the thing.
Sure.
That doesn't mean as non-candidates on ourselves that we let off the gas. Here's our problem. We let off the gas in 2016. We got 8 years of Obama. We got 8 years of competent presidency. And we're like, everybody's got this. We don't got this.
Yeah.
But we got to keep on keeping on.
Yeah.
And so far what I've seen, I like, but the Republicans ain't going to make it easy. They're going to fight tooth and nail. It's going to come down to the wire. It could come down to 1 or 2 states on deciding if we keep the Congress or not. We need to be scared. We need to be listening to our Democrat politicians. And I'm not joking. We lose this, we lose this. We're back where we were in 2017.
Sure. Well, that's a great segue to talk about the show that's coming next week. It's actually the Politics show number 4. We will have some candidates that are running for office here in North Carolina, and we'll give them the same time that we did candidates Politics show number 3. That was last April, I believe, before the primary elections that were out. I think it's sometime around then. So the next show will be the Politics show. It'd be interesting to see if anyone who decides to come on shares the same energy, Jenny, that I'm looking for. So I guess.
I think every candidate's going to have their own specific type of energy, but I personally don't see any Democrats pulling punches. I personally don't see. They might word it differently, but I see a lot of fight. I see Val Demings down in Florida that's friggin' not letting up on Marco Rubio at all. I see many of the people running for office who look at a Beto that, basically told those people that were heckling him about Uvalde, shut the fuck up, motherfuckers. Like a generation ago, you'd have never seen a competent governor or candidate lash back. But these aren't normal times. We are staring fascism down the barrel right now. Beto realizes, John Fetterman realizes, Sherry Beasley realizes, all the Democrats realize. Dark Brandon, aka Joe Biden, completely understands he needed to do 2 things: come aggressive with his verbiage, and also accomplish something these 2 years.
Sure,
we can actually run on things. I'm confident. Like we did an infrastructure bill. We did. We we did this. There's like a list of 20, 30 major accomplishments that we did as a party. What do you got?
Yeah. Well, I don't disagree with you, Jenny. I mean, I don't know why. It just seems like to me, the ones that you talked about, yes. The Beto and in Georgia and in Florida and even the Pennsylvania, but those are like 15 cases of 500 and something people running for office. It doesn't feel like there's an overall message from the Democratic Party that's consistently saying, you guys need to be concerned about this election. They're saying it, but it doesn't seem to be inspiring down.
I think you spend too much time following
Republicans.
I think you spend too much time following Republicans.
Well, I don't, but that's an interesting analogy. Well, let's assume that I'm not the exception, and I don't mean me personally. No. Let's say I'm talking on behalf of people who maybe watch this show or people who aren't as engaged as we are. What do you think the party needs to do to filter down to them? And I know we don't speak for the party. I'm just saying, if you were the queen of the Democratic Party, what do you think that they need to do, other than what they're doing now, within 4 weeks left? What do you think they need to do to put people's hair on fire to make sure they get out to vote? Or do you think what they're doing is fine?
I think you keep on doing what you're doing now. I mean, I think the Democratic Party's been running a race like they're behind. Okay. And I think unlike 2016, where we felt like we had it in the bag, because certainly nobody was going to vote for Trump over Hillary. Well, we all thought that. There was a consensus when you looked at the polling numbers in the early fall. She had a double-digit lead. It was like, there's no way that clown's winning. Mm-hmm. That is not the consensus that I'm reading amongst Democratic leadership.
Oh, no, I agree. It's very different.
I 100% believe that the messaging is that they're campaigning like we're behind. And you should. You should run this race all the way to November 8th. You should be out campaigning up the day of November 8th. You should be running like you're behind the day of the election, and you should be running just like in track.
Yeah.
When you're running a sprint, you don't lay up.
Yeah. You
don't even lay up when you pass the finish line. Mm-hmm. You're still going full throttle 10 yards past the finish line. You better. Your back of your heels better be hitting your buttocks. You're running so hard, and if you're not, you're an idiot. That's how you lose races, because you can lose right at the end. And I don't see any quit in the Democratic Party. I see John Fetterman out there half stroked out, running so hard that his head's going to pop off his shoulders. And I don't see a Democrat running a race like that. I don't see any Democrats not running hard. Okay. I think we realize this is the difference between people keeping their reproductive rights, their human rights, their voting rights, and that this right now, we can't even think about 2024. There is no 2024 if we don't have a 2022 win.
Okay. Well, that's. I just wish you were leading a bunch of people's campaigns, because I'd like to hear that. I'm not. I would like to hear that. I have absolutely nothing to gain by not wanting the Democratic Party to win.
No, I'm not saying that.
There's absolutely nothing I have to gain by wanting the Democratic Party to lose in this state or any other state.
I just don't think. Okay, I'll say it the way I should say it. I think you're using past prejudice and preferences against current candidates, and I think you're not seeing it as it is. I think some of it's a founded fear, because you're going back to 2016 when we got bombed. Yeah. When we got bombed, I think, I'm not saying your fear is unfounded. I just don't. I think Democrats are running as hard as I can. I can't think it. I read candidates that aren't making the big news cycle. I follow some on Twitter that most people don't even know who they are. And the reason being is I want to see those lower races, those races that aren't the Fetterman races, the Val Demings, the Glossy races, the Beto race. I want to see somebody from District 10 in Ohio. I want to see how they run it, because that's where the messaging comes from. And if anything, if two things, I think our recent history since Dobbs is any indication, and many of the different special elections, and the ability, the level, and the amount of new registrations on the Democratic primarily by I don't think we're fine yet. But I'm also cautiously optimistic that if we keep running the same race we're running right now, we'll hold the House and we'll expand the Senate lead.
You made some excellent points, and we do need to end the show. I'm just saying is that I would love nothing more than to not have to promote candidates. And I feel like we have spent the last 2 years trying to energize people to vote. You and I personally, educating people to vote, energizing people to vote, talking about things, doing this show, doing things as much as we can. And whenever I see a candidate who wants to represent me who's not doing the same thing, it upsets me, because I'm like, why am I working harder than the person who wants to take the office? You know, and so that naturally upsets me, just like I would be upset if I'm out there rallying for immigrant rights and I don't see immigrants rallying, you know? And so that's so for me, I just don't
agree. I just haven't seen a candidate that isn't running hard. And I think they're running, and I think they got to run their race that's particular to their district or their state. I think how a Beto would run in Texas is not necessarily. It's not
like someone would run in North Carolina.
They can be similar and have the exact same message. But Beto's style of speaking, his style of campaigning, you're not going to be able to cookie cutter there, or I hope you don't. You know, and I think the Democrats being a true big tent party, everybody, like an Almond Adams, definitely cannot run like Jeff Jackson. Then their districts slap up against each other. They're going for the same type of voter, Democrats and independent. But Alma Adams' message is going to always sound a lot different than Jeff Jackson. They're two different people. They have two different districts. There's two different logistical needs. And, you know, for example, Jeff's district's way more rural. And so what you would campaign on in, you know, Gaston County is going to be way different than you would in Mecklenburg County. And so I don't think using different messaging techniques is necessarily less than. I think it's just I think it's tactical and strategic. I think both of those candidates are running very hard races, very winnable races, but they're running hard. I have full confidence they're both running the hardest races they can run. In my opinion.
Well, I'm glad you have a lot of confidence in them, and I hope what you say is it wins.
I hope on November 9th that I'm right.
Well, you usually are.
I've been wrong before.
No, you usually are. Anyway. All right, so let's wrap our show up. Jen, this has been a good show. I'm glad. I always learn stuff on our own show. So even if it's just you and I that watched today, you know, I've learned a lot today. So let's go around and Brady Bunt screen. Tell us where you're going to be in 30 seconds or less, and then we will end the show and get ready for your next one.
It'll be a quick trip. It's just you and I. But anyway, you'll see us in about 30 more minutes on a different format called Two Queers in a Truck. And then got a few things coming up in October. I have a gaming and drag show event on October 22nd that I'm hosting. And
I'll be in town.
Well, that'll be magical. Then you can come, certainly.
Sorry.
We're going to have it at a new brewery here in town that's not been open a long time, that has multiple breweries in different states, called Highwire Brewery, and I'm super excited. I've actually never been in the venue yet, so I need to actually go do a site inspection before I go in there. But our entertainers, the Vanity House, actually played multiple events over the last 3 or 4 months there, so I know it is a been vetted. I didn't book it blindly, but it's a very LGBT friendly. They have many LGBT employees, and I'm super excited to try a new place and shake it up a little bit and have a little bit of gaming fun and see our friends the Vanities perform on October 22nd.
Excellent. Wow, you sound busy.
Yes.
So I will be camping and doing other stuff as well. I actually work when I'm camping, believe it or not. So I will be doing that. And then the next week, well, I'll actually be canvassing during the week, my own neighborhood, as I do. And then next week, I'll be canvassing more. I'll be getting ready to work the polls here in Charlotte, North Carolina for early voting. Early voting starts next week on the 20th here. And I think around the country sometime around then as well. So this is boots hit the ground, getting ready to get out the vote for everyone. So with that said, I want to thank you, Jenny, for a great show. And we will get ready for her show. Don't forget to watch Two Queers in a Truck that comes on 30 minutes after this one on Wednesdays. And Jenny, if you have the music, we will dance out. And I didn't bring MTG's Lover back, but okay. All right. Bye, y'all. See you next week.
Bye. Hey, y'all. Thanks for watching us, Christian and I duke it out. But have a great week. Be safe out there. And don't listen to Christian. Listen to me. Get out there and vote.
Bye, y'all. See
y'all.
you next week.
Next up, thanks for watching Coffee Pan Dulce. Next up is Two Queers in a Truck. Stay tuned.